Hey community of awesome, I'm Gabe and this is Bookish Pixie. You guys asked me a lot of great questions and I'm going to answer as many of them as I can within a 4 to 5 minute range, so let's go. As someone who has multiple extremely time consuming hobbies, writing, drumming, running a YouTube channel, how do you suggest balancing between all of your hobbies and how do you avoid procrastination when writing a manuscript? So for a long time, I was juggling grad school, freelancing, running a YouTube channel, my author work / writing, and a part-time job. And I hit a point this year where I realized I was just doing way too much. So an important part when you're juggling a lot of things in your life is to realize you have to prioritize some things. So I realized for me, my priorities were my part-time job because that pays the bulk of my bills, grad school because I wasn't going to quit grad school, writing, obviously, because that's my career and what I love to do, and this YouTube channel because I enjoy it and it's also part of my career. So what has helped me lately is to look at my schedule and say, okay, so this day I'm going to focus on my writing, and this day I'm going to focus on grad school, and this day I'm at my part-time job all day. And by breaking it up that way, it made it a lot easier for me to figure out what I need to do so I can keep juggling these things. But it also meant I had to put some things on the back burner, so I'm not freelancing anymore right now, which was a really difficult decision to make, but I realized I had to do it in order to preserve my mental health while I was juggling all these things. As for not procrastinating, I've literally not had the time to procrastinate. But if that's not the case for you, you might find that if you do schedule things in, like working on one thing or working on the other thing, having that kind of structure can help you push off procrastination a little bit. But ultimately, it comes down to you sitting down and doing the work. When I first started writing, the first thing I noticed is that it immediately destroyed my sleep cycle, causing me to stay up way later than I should be because I can't stop writing due to not wanting to forget anything. How would you suggest consistently getting your work done while maintaining a healthy sleep cycle? So I think the first part of the sleep cycle bit is to recognize when you work best. I work best in the morning, so I go to bed early and then wake up early. You might be the opposite. You might go to bed late and then wake up late because you work better at night. That's totally fine. The point is to make sure you know when you work best. And then the second part of not wanting to forget anything is I will jot down notes if I have to stop writing for whatever reason, about like where I wanted the scene to go or what things I don't want to forget the next day when I'm looking at my document again. Hey, my question is, how do I plan for the end of my book? I'm stuck with an ending and I don't think you've ever talked about that before. So it's actually really easy to answer because I have talked about endings before. It was in one vlog many years ago, so no worries that you didn't come across it. It's called Elements of a Great Ending and I'm going to link to that below. Another question I had was, should a teen self-publish on Amazon instead of traditional publishing? Because I don't have much money, but I do have people to look at my novel that I'm working on now. So there are many reasons why you may choose self-publishing versus traditional publishing or vice versa. I've talked about that in a bunch of different vlogs, which I'll link to below, but I'm just going to talk about the money aspect because that's what was prioritized here. So I want this to be really clear. When you self-publish, that is going to cost you money up front that traditional publishing will not. When you self-publish, you have to pay for an editor, somebody to create the cover of your book, and someone to format your book, and then whatever marketing you want to do. When you traditionally publish, you should not pay anyone anything up front. Period. The only exception to this is you might choose to hire a freelance editor to look over your work or a sensitivity reader, but that's not mandatory for you to get an agent. Agents do not charge fees up front. If you see an agent charging like a reading fee or anything like that, they are a scammer, avoid them. And in traditional publishing, publishers will pay you to publish your book. You do not pay them to publish. So anyway, you don't need to have money to traditionally publish is what I'm trying to say. Can you sell/pitch an unfinished manuscript to an agent or publisher? If you do not already have an agent, the answer is no. If you're looking to publish your debut and get your first agent, then your manuscript needs to be completely written and revised. Sometimes authors who are more established will get the opportunity to sell a book on proposal, but that is not the case for a new writer. That said, if you're writing nonfiction, that is a completely different ballgame, and I do think they work with proposals more, but I don't know much about that. Is it possible to work on 2 different stories with 2 different genres, or should you only focus on one? So an example would be working on medieval fantasy and the next day post-apocalyptic future. Is it possible? Sure. Is it something I do? No. I personally would find it extremely difficult to first draft 2 different manuscripts at the same time. I have in the past first drafted and revised like 2 different projects around the same time, and that's been okay because they were 2 different parts of my brain. But to first draft 2 projects at the same time, even if they were the same genre, I think would be extremely difficult for me. That said, that's me. You might be different. If you find you can first draft 2 different projects that are 2 different genres, then go for it. You do what works best for you. How hard is it to you to write from a younger character's point of view? I feel like it's way harder than with the older guys, but I'm not a pro, so. This is actually a really well-timed question because as of a couple weeks ago, I actually just finished my very first middle grade first draft. I found what helped me make the transition from YA to middle grade in terms of voice was reading a lot of middle grade books, and that's something I want to continue doing as I revise. So that's all I got time for today. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and comment, and I'll see you guys soon.